Thank you so much, Natalia. I hope everyone can hear me clearly. I just posted the link to this study that I'm going to present, which is published on ProQuest. And listening to the presentations yesterday, as much as I could hear, I changed a little bit because we talked a lot about consciousness yesterday, a lot of the presenters, and it was pretty much agreed upon that consciousness is experiential. So I had thought toward the end of the presentation, if we had time for Q&A, I would take everyone through an experiential process. However, I decided that I could talk about this intervention for days, for hours, but allowing you to experience it is going to be the most beneficial course of action. So again, I posted the study in the chat. And but before we begin the experiential process, we need to know, in order to understand this intervention, it's beneficial to know a little bit about quantum physics. And many of us know that in the 1920s, a quantum mechanical discovery called the double slit experiment occurred, indicating that when particles were observed, the results changed. The experiment showed that without observation, a particle behaved as a wave. However, when it was observed, it acted as a particle. So keep this in mind as we move into this experiential process. So this mind-body medicine intervention was used in a human research study that I conducted last summer, in the summer of 2022. It is a direct experience of higher consciousness for many people, although it's not always articulated in that way, because it's been used in psychotherapy practices for over 50 years.
Tonya, sorry, can you put it in slideshow so it's bigger for people to read?
Okay.
And follow.
Okay, here we go. I have there's so many things open at the type. Okay, hold on a second.
Yeah, and slideshow, you play from the current slide, the second option. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna have to close out some of these windows too, because I can barely see what's going on. There's so much on my screen. So, so the study basically exemplifies how we can affect matter by way of consciousness. And again, yesterday, there was a lot of talk about this yesterday, and we were talking about how can we, it's nice to preach to the choir. Those of us in these circles, we understand these things, but how do we begin to sort of recruit non-believers or those who just have not had these experiences, people who are unaware? How do we begin to deliver these messages to them? So as I said, the founder of the person who derived this particular therapy, Open Focus, Dr. Les Femi, he's known as one of the pioneers of neurofeedback. He created one of the first EEG machines back in the 1960s while he was doing his Ph.D. Residency at UCLA, and made some discoveries during the time of his dissertation. So the study shows that we can affect dense energy by way of consciousness. And I actually borrowed a quote from our own Marilyn Monk yesterday, who said, she posted in the chat, consciousness is the in-between of things in the interconnected whole. So just allow yourself to do this for yourself. Again, we're going to move into this experiential process, and we're going to go through it. I want to allow you to have the time to experience this, even if I have to cut some of the presentations short. And is there some way? It looks like we have the subtitles going here. So allow yourself to do this for yourself. Look at the computer screen and notice the space between you and the computer screen. Can you notice the silence right now? Simply observe the space between any sounds that might be in your environment, including the sound of my voice. If there are any objects in the room, notice the space in between and around the objects. You're simply observing the space, the void, the nothingness. Now close your eyes. Can you imagine the space between your eyes? It's as if you can experience the distance between your right and your left eye. Can you imagine and experience the space around your head? Now experience the space between your head and the ceiling. Experience the space between your head and beyond the ceiling, beyond the building, out into the stratospheres and into the universe. Now bring your attention back to your body and notice the space between your ears and your shoulders. Experience the space all around your shoulders and all around your entire body. Can you experience the weight of your body? And how about the space within your body, between your internal organs, between the atoms and the cells? Imagine the space in your body. When you're ready, simply open your eyes. Bring your attention back into the room. And also when you're ready, if you can just take a few moments to jot down any experiences you might have had, any ideas or any questions. I think the facilitators want you to put it in the chat so you can either do that or save it for afterwards. But just jot down any questions or experiences you might have had. Thanks. So again, this is a feasibility and preparation study for a future randomized controlled trial, which I conducted it was actually conducted initially for my master's thesis in applied psychophysiology for Saybrook University here in California. It's a sister university of CIIS. We had several presenters from CIIS yesterday. So Saybrook is another humanistic, small private humanistic university here in California. And then it was also utilized for my PhD in transpersonal counseling with the University of Sedona. So for those of you who don't know about Sedona, Arizona, it is a spiritual vortex here in the United States. And University of Sedona is basically a metaphysical theology school. And again, there's the link of the published work. So I talked a little about quantum physics and the realization that the human body is mostly comprised of atoms, and atoms are mostly space. Matter, including the human body, mostly consists of nothingness. What we perceive as objects, chairs, cars, humans, it's all an assembly of tiny particles separated by what is virtually infinite nothingness. And this ties into, as I talked about earlier, the double slit experiment in terms of the observation of space, which is what the human body is mostly made of, and what all of our existence, that's what is mostly consists of space. So this presentation summarizes the disease rheumatoid arthritis, its outlook, and introduces the intervention of open focus joint space therapy and the reasons for its use in this clinical study conducted in the summer of 2022. The hypothesis was that the intervention would result in improved physical functionality, mobility, and pain reduction for RA patients. We wanted to test it to see if this intervention, which has been utilized in psychotherapy practice to promote stress reduction in anxiety, optimal functionality. It's been used in psychotherapy practices, but we wanted to see if we could literally affect the human physiology. And Dr. Femi and his wife, they published many books with regard to their clinical work and how the intervention affected many of their patients. However, this was the first opportunity to actually test it in a human research study. Both qualitative and quantitative data gathering resulted in no statistical significance and acceptance of the null hypothesis. However, patient-reported outcomes indicated improvements for 90% of the small study sample. So the success of the study suggests room for future randomized controlled trials using this intervention. 24% of people worldwide are diagnosed with RA, which is non-curable. And this number of people is expected to double by the year 2030. DMARDs are the most common treatment, but we know that medications do not come without side effects. So this contributed to the exploration of this non-invasive CAM therapy for this trial. Open Focus is a guided, self-directed therapeutic process that contains aspects of mindfulness meditation, mindfulness coaching, and hypnosis. It uses objectless imagery, body awareness, and space-time environment observations to usher participants into immersive experiences, yielding clarity, focus, stress reduction, disorder balancing, and optimal functionality, the operative word being observation. Joint space is one aspect of the Open Focus training. And again, it's a neurophysiological intervention employed by psychologists in clinical settings and by certified professionals in non-clinical environments for over 50 years. Both qualitative and quantitative data. I'm going to breeze through some of this because we went through the experience already. We utilized the Stanford HAQ and MD HAQ. The study, we had 10 subjects ages 30 to 73 located in the USA, Canada, and Australia. These were, by the way, all just happened to be all females, all professional females. We had one medical doctor, a psychologist, a language translator, teachers, artists. It was a wonderful gathering of women, but all diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis, enrolled in a 7 weeks virtual therapy program to test this hypothesis.
Tonya, just to let you know that you have 5 minutes left.
All right, okay. What we know about RA, let me see, breeze through this. Again, you can read about all this in the study that is published at ProQuest. I was going to talk about a little bit of the differences between hypnosis, the similarities and differences between hypnosis and mindfulness meditation and open focus. But again, it's all published in the study. I definitely wanted everyone to have the experience. This talks about randomized control trials that were conducted comparing mindfulness meditation to that yielded positive results with rheumatoid arthritis patients. Again, so because the open focus therapy had not previously been tested in a study, we had to utilize similar interventions for the literature gathering purposes. So that's why I'm talking about the hypnosis and the mindfulness meditation and mindfulness-based stress reduction. So these are some of the studies that we used. And so it was an ABA design, recruitment efforts, 10 female subjects. We talked about that. I'm breezing through all of that. All the communications were virtually via Zoom. The statistical analysis, descriptive statistics were employed by quantitatively describing, summarizing, and analyzing the study's information. Again, all of these graphs are featured in the study, and it shows the effects of the therapy, which the participants practiced 3 times per day for 7 weeks. And so the reported outcomes showed a decrease in pain reduction, mobility, and functionality. And then toward the end, it started to increase a little bit because I think some of the subjects started sort of tapering off on how many times per day they were practicing. But initially, as you can see from the graph, there was a big drop through week 3, and then it started to raise a little bit because they weren't practicing as frequently. This talks a little bit about, okay, I'm going to just share a little bit of these testimonials, and then I think my time will be up. This is from a Canadian participant. When you instruct us to imagine the space between our joints and our internal organs, I feel relaxed. I do not feel any pain. These are people, many of whom who have been struggling with the disease, rheumatoid arthritis for years. Another USA participant said, I did a session out in the desert today. My mind settled and my emotions were steady. I was thinking about the space between the clouds. My body continues to be stiff, but I'm so relaxed during the session that I am not aware of any pain. Another Canadian participant, I just did the neck and shoulders reporting. I really like this one. I love the science to be able to focus deep into the atoms and nuclei. It helps me visualize exactly how our cells are made up to really experience the internal space. And then Australian participant says, I find it hard to put into words, but there is something immediately calming about observing space. I feel my usually racing mind and usually tense shoulders relax. It's very peaceful. I've always considered myself highly strung. And quite hypervigilant during these meditations, and for the period after, I am calmer than usual, which is lovely. So again, there's much more that I could go on and on about, but I definitely am happy that I was able to hopefully share a little bit, at least an introduction to the intervention, and talk a little bit about why we feel like we did experience at least success in terms of the patient-reported outcomes for this study. And the desire is to continue to conduct research in this area, growing research fields of psychoneuroimmunology, including cellular biology, neuroimmunology, and medical psychology. They're all providing the essential research to make these links between the psychological process and the central nervous system and the autoimmune disorders. All the connections are there in terms of the previous research. So the desire is to continue with more and more of these studies. The end.